I'm Christi Cooper. I'm the director and one of the producers of a feature documentary called Youth V Gov. And the film is about 21 young people from across the United States, really brave kids who took up a landmark constitutional climate change lawsuit. They sued the U.S. government in 2015 for violating their constitutional rights to a safe and stable climate system.
So where did you find, what inspired you to do this documentary? Where did you find the story that, like, oh my gosh, I got to do this, we got to put it on camera? And tell me a little bit about, approaching the youth and these little groups to say, hey, I want to document you and tell you the story.
Yeah, so my journey with this story actually started back in 2011. I was working with Witness, a social justice human rights organization, and to create a series of 10 short films about young people who were suing their state governments. And these young people were all being supported by the same organization that has brought this case, Our Children's Trust, and that's led by Julia Olson, the lead attorney. So I met some of these kids back in 2011. I met Julia back in 2011, and it was kind of my introduction into climate litigation and this, really kind of novel approach to using the courts and the judicial system as a means to tackle the climate crisis. Definitely my first time working with young people and filming with minors, which brings a lot of different aspects and challenges to filmmaking. So I kind of started there. 3 of the plaintiffs in those short films became plaintiffs in this federal case. So I developed relationships with them and with Julia, and when they filed this lawsuit in 2015, I was kind of an insider to the story and was able to hop on and ask for exclusive access and continue the relationship with these young people.
What was that aha moment during filming and or editing that you were like, yeah, I'm on the right track, I got this, we're moving forward with this?
Yeah, I think maybe I'll speak more from the standpoint of during post-production, during editing. I had spent 5 years documenting these kids' lives and the case, and did 2.5 years of research into government archives and understanding what the role of the government was in creating the climate crisis. And it really wasn't until we sat down during post to put this story together that the challenge of how complicated this story was really became apparent. For a long time, I think people thought I was making 3 different films. So when we sat down to actually edit the film, and we came up with this 3-act structure, which is based on the elements of standing in a court of law. So in order to have a constitutional claim, you have to be able to prove that you are harmed as a plaintiff, and then you have to be able to prove that the defendant caused the harm, and then you have to be able to prove that the court can provide a remedy. And so we kind of set up our story structure along those three elements, basically. And once we figured that out, that was definitely the aha moment for us. It was like everything kind of just fell into place with the story. Suddenly the plaintiff stories made sense, and we understood where to plug them in to move the overall arch forward.
Youth a lot of times are told you're not old enough, you can't vote, you can't drink, you can't even go to war. But, the youth today, I'm 41 years old. I turned 42 later this year. And I didn't have Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. I had an Apple IIgs, and I had Oregon Trail. And the youth today has so many tools at their disposal. Talk to me about, the tools that your subjects had at their disposal, and, some of the pushback they got from the adults, because I imagine that they got pushback from legislatures that they went to go visit, but sometimes maybe their own family members or friends saying, you need to go study, or you need to go, do music.
Yeah, I think one misconception that a lot of people have about young people that are involved in this climate movement is that they're somehow they're props from some adult agenda. And it was really interesting, my experience of working with these young people in understanding that this really comes out of their own desire and their understanding of how their futures are harmed. There were several plaintiffs on this case whose parents were not involved at all, or even denied the Vic, for instance, his father is a climate denier, and there's a part of that story in the film of Vic really trying to help his father understand why he cares about this issue. So that was really interesting. A lot of these kids got a lot of pushback on social media. You know, their faces are out there. They're being interviewed by the press. People know their names. And so there's, you know, people can be really mean on social media or on comments on the news. And so the plaintiffs really had to develop a tough skin and to some degree kind of, you know, put on blinders and not really focus on what people were saying about them or the critique that they were receiving. But they also are so brilliant at using social media and this technology to their advantage to really build awareness and build a cohort and build a movement around this.
Talk to me about your subjects. What are they up to now? Because I know you've been traveling with this film on the festival circuit. You've won some awards. You've, you know, had some great successes with this. So what are the subjects up to these days?
Well, Kelsey, who's the oldest plaintiff, she recently turned 25, and she just graduated from college in June, and it was a long journey for her. Of course, you know, her involvement with this case kind of made being able to finish college pretty difficult. So she's finished with college, and she's off to become a stellar educator and to teach other young people. Levi, the youngest one, just turned 14, and he's busy you know, working with different environmental projects on the beaches in Florida. Vic is now working full-time for a climate organization called Power Shift. Jacob is running his farm and a leather tanning business. And Alex is going to law school now at the University of Oregon. It's amazing. They're like all growing up and following their paths, and still heavily invested, obviously, in this case as it's still weaving its way through the court system. But yeah, it's been pretty cool seeing them grow up.
So talk to me, Leslie, talk to me about this impact organization that you have, because we need that to be supported to support them moving forward. So tell me about Impact, and tell me about how we can, every day, our viewers can support the Impact Foundation.
Yeah, thanks for that question. So as part of our film distribution, we have an impact campaign that we are getting ready to launch, and we're really excited to work with some young and diverse impact producers who have a lot of experience of working on the ground with communities to bring about change. We're going to be working with a government affairs consultant as well to get this film into the Beltway in D.C. and work with legislators and within the Biden administration to build awareness about the Giuliani case. And people can go to our website, youthvgovfilm.com. We have a take action button where folks can get engaged. We're actively fundraising for this work. We have 2 years of work that we're really looking forward to, of working with young people and communities on the ground to provide resources and tools and connections within their own communities to hold their local, state, federal governments accountable on the climate crisis.
Awesome. So give us the websites and the socials so we can follow these young people through their victories, and then we can also to support your film and support the Impact Foundation as well.
Sure. So our website is www.youthvgovfilm.com. All of our social media handles are at youthvgovfilm, and we would love for you to sign up and join, and you can learn more about what we'll be doing in the future.
Thank you very much for bringing this to Bentonville, and congratulations on all your successes.
Thanks so much, Dev.